The message hit my phone the second I stepped out of the doctor's office, still holding a crumpled tissue and my half-finished cough drops. The screen lit up with a short, perfectly casual line that made my pulse spike. "You're not invited to the Rome-Paris leg of the trip until you apologize to your brother for ruining the travel flow." Ruining the flow. That was my grand offense. My punishment? Exile. From the very trip I had spent months stitching together with the precision of a watchmaker. Every flight carefully chosen, every seat strategically booked, every suite upgraded with saved points. A trip they flaunted online before we even left home. What my family, my mother Martha, my father David, and my self-declared golden boy brother Mark, didn't realize was something deliciously poetic. Every single mile of that journey, every first-class recliner, every hotel suite with its marble tub and room service menu existed because of me, because of my points. Points that weren't just numbers on a screen. They were a decade of quiet sacrifice, a decade of choosing responsibility over recklessness, work over whimsy. And now, thanks to one obnoxious text message, I knew exactly what I was going to do with all of them. Reclaim every single point. If you've ever been the invisible engine that keeps your family running while they treat you like an accessory, this story is going to hum deep inside you. Sometimes, the only way to teach respect is to pull the rug out from under the ungrateful. Because this is the story of how a $25,000 dream vacation twisted into an instant, unforgettable airport nightmare. My name is Clara, and precision is my superpower. I'm a senior financial analyst, the human embodiment of spreadsheets and highlighters. I measure life in formulas, goals, and loyalty rewards. My hobby isn't skydiving or yoga retreats. It's optimization, making sure every choice returns value. While my friends collected memories, I collected points. I drove the same dependable sedan for 12 years. I brown-bagged my lunch nearly every weekday. I stayed late at the office when no one asked me to. And with each sacrifice, those rewards points multiplied quietly in the background, like digital seeds growing into a tree only I could see. The tree I someday imagined would shade me in early retirement, or whisk me away on a once-in-a-lifetime trip for me. 800,000 points. That's what those years of self-discipline amounted to. To others, they might seem like just miles. To me, they were my freedom fund, my emergency safety net, my proof that hard work compounds as surely as interest. Then there's Mark, my brother, the family's untouchable favorite. If charm had a face, it would look exactly like his smug grin, attractive, charismatic, and perpetually allergic to consistency. He was the prince of good timing, appearing when the bills were due, and disappearing when accountability arrived. In our family, Mark had a sixth sense for locating the nearest financial cushion. Spoiler, that cushion was almost always me. I had covered security deposits for his failed startups, the kind where investors were really just family members too polite to say no. I'd bailed him out of car payments, 3 in a row once, after his super promising app mysteriously vanished. Every time he promised change, every time gratitude turned into silence so thick you could choke on it. Exactly 1 year ago, during what was supposed to be a casual breakfast, Mark unveiled his newest project. He pitched it with the confidence of a CEO unveiling the cure for boredom. The family would take a once-in-a-lifetime European tour. Italy, France, luxury all the way. Never mind that he could barely afford a bus ticket. My parents didn't notice or didn't care. They swooned, and as usual before my coffee even cooled, the fantasy turned into my assignment. "Clara," he said, barely glancing up from his phone as he stirred the coffee I had bought him. "You're the only one who understands all that travel reward nonsense. Flights are outrageously expensive. Just book it all using your points. We'll totally pay you back in cash later." Obviously, that word, obviously, hung in the air like a lie wearing cologne. I knew they'd never repay me. But even still, something naive inside me reached for hope. Maybe if I made the impossible possible again, they'd see me. Maybe this time they'd recognize how much I gave. So for 3 long weekends, I lived with my laptop. I researched, compared, triple-checked. The itinerary became my masterpiece. 5 indulgent days in Rome with a free upgrade to the presidential suite. Then a high-speed rail to Paris, where I'd secured rooms with private terraces, and 4 lie-flat first-class tickets for the flights. 10 years of discipline condensed into a single, dazzling trip, worth over $25,000 in real-world value. Mark, naturally, took full credit. For 9 months straight, the family group chat became a shrine to his invented competence. Mark flooded the chat with screenshots, hotel pictures, and captions like, "Can you believe how great my Rome research was?" Mother and father reacted with heart emojis and exclamation marks, drooling over his effort. My contribution quietly vanished under layers of gifts and parental pride. I told myself it didn't matter. I was going to. That was my peace offering from the universe. A front row seat to the vacation I'd built. Except the universe had other plans. 2 days before our flight, I woke up feeling like I'd been bitten by a truck. My fever was volcanic, my limbs concrete. The doctor took one look and shook his head. "You're grounded." I tried to accept it gracefully, though it felt like swallowing glass. Still pale and trembling, I called Mark. "I can't fly," I croaked. "I've got the flu." Doctor says absolutely not. "But don't worry, I've canceled my single ticket. Yours, Mom's, and Dad's are still confirmed." Silence. Then that voice, the one I knew too well, full of exasperation disguised as concern. "Seriously, Clara? You waited until now to get sick. Do you know how this screws up the car service to the airport? Now there's going to be an empty seat. The flow is ruined, no sympathy, no get well, just logistics." I hung up before tears could betray me. But of course, the text followed. First from Martha, brisk and clipped, dripping with disappointed professionalism. "Clara, this is terrible timing. Mark is very upset. You need to be more supportive. Pull yourself together before we get back. More supportive." I looked at the screen, then at the numbers in my loyalty account. I had given them $25,000 worth of travel. I had paid with my time, my energy, my patience, and somehow that wasn't supportive enough. Then came the final insult. An hour later, another ping from Mark, an attached invoice. "Make sure you still send me $100 for your share of the hotel tax and group insurance. You're not getting a free ride just because you chose to cancel." Chose to cancel. As if I'd willfully decided viral fevers were a fun alternative to Italy. I reread his message 6 times, fury rising steady and slow. Each word flared hotter than my fever. This wasn't about a trip anymore. It was about hierarchy. They saw me as a resource, not a sibling. My purpose was to provide, not participate. That truth hurt more than any illness. Lying there in my small apartment, surrounded by cough syrup bottles and unspoken anger, I realized the pattern had been there all along. The praise always went to Mark, the effort always to me, and the gratitude never arrived. Those 800,000 points weren't generosity, they were ransom for acceptance. And even after paying the full price, I was still locked outside the family's golden circle. For the first time in years, something inside me clicked into place. If I was only ever valued for what I provided, then it was time to stop providing. So I pulled myself from bed, bones aching, wrapped in a blanket, and sat down at my desk. My laptop glowed softly in the dark room, emails stacked like dominoes. I opened the booking portal, hands trembling not from sickness anymore but from pure, righteous determination. I somehow managed to drag my aching body to my desk, opened my laptop, and stared at the screens glowing with booking confirmations. I had been given a choice: apologize, pay the fine, and remain the family fool, or seize control of the one asset that gave me power. Not this time, I thought, a quiet steel resolve settling in my chest. The fever was gone, replaced by a cold, surgical focus. The moment I decided to pull the plug, the sickness seemed to recede entirely. The fear was replaced by an almost clinical calm. I was done pleading for respect. I was going to command it. The plan was simple, elegant, and irrevocable. The key was the rewards program structure. I pulled up the airline's rewards dashboard. The beauty of booking with points is that the primary account holder, the points owner, has absolute dominion over the tickets regardless of the passenger names. The names on the itinerary mean nothing. The points are the currency, and they belong to me. I meticulously went through the itinerary, starting with the biggest target, the flights. The 4 first-class tickets had cost me a combined 100,000 points. Mark had been boasting for 6 months about the champagne service and his lie-flat seat. I navigated to the booking, confirmed the 3 remaining passengers, and selected the nuclear option: cancel trip, refund points to origin account. The confirmation screen flashed up. demanding my final consent. Are you sure you want to proceed? This action cannot be reversed. My finger hovered over the confirmation button, pausing only for a millisecond as a wave of doubt tried to wash over me. They are my family. This is cruel. They will hate me forever. But then I heard Mark's voice in my head. You aren't getting a free ride just because you chose to cancel. I saw Martha's face cold with disapproval. They didn't see me as family. They saw me as a budget line item. Click. The digital sound was barely audible, yet it felt like the firing of a starting pistol. A green confirmation bar flashed across the screen. 800,000 points successfully credited. The 3 first-class tickets, Martha's, David's, and Mark's, vanished from the system, replaced by a devastatingly empty travel log. Next came the hotels, the 5-star suites. I canceled the Rome booking, reclaiming the points, then the Paris suite. The luxury they'd demanded was systematically dismantled. Finally, the non-refundable high-speed rail passes, because those had been purchased with a travel credit I generated through a specialized bank card. The vendor happily issued a credit back to my professional account, avoiding a potential chargeback dispute with the primary booker. Within an hour, every single piece of the $25,000 dream vacation that Mark had spent 9 months taking credit for was utterly erased. The points were back in my account, shiny and secure, a digital testament to me own worth. I felt lighter than I had in years. I didn't send a warning. I didn't announce my actions. I blocked their numbers, blocked them on social media, and muted the family chat. I wanted the silence to be complete, only to be broken by the inevitable explosive call from the airport at the precise moment of their utter defeat. Saturday arrived, the day they were supposed to depart. I spent the morning exactly as they imagined they would be in pampered leisure. I brewed an expensive cup of coffee, curled up with a new book, and waited. The flight was scheduled for 2 p.m. I expected the call around 10 p.m., right when they tried to check their luggage and confirm their first-class seating. At 10:07 p.m., my phone, which I had placed on speaker on my coffee table, began to scream. It was Mark. I let it ring once, twice. The sound was an orchestral crescendo of impending failure. Then I answered, "Clara, what did you do with the tickets?" "We're at the check-in desk and they say everything is canceled. There's no flight for us." His voice was high-pitched, dissolving from entitlement into genuine panic, the noise of the busy terminal loud in the background. "Oh, Mark," he answered calmly, taking a slow, deliberate sip of my coffee. "That's weird. I thought you booked your own trip. You seem so confident in the family chat." "Don't play games, Clara. It's all tied to your points account. You have to fix it right now. We're going to miss our flight, and they won't even let us through security." "Fix it. You banned me from the trip, Mark. You made me apologize for getting sick." I realized that my loyalty wasn't valued, so I withdrew my investment. When Allender stops payment, the collateral goes back to the bank. Right. The points are mine. Then came Martha, her voice already shrill with hysteria, grabbing the phone from Mark. "Clara, this is terrible. Your father is having palpitations in the ticketing line. This is sabotage. We told you to apologize and you did this." "My explanation, Mother," I said, my voice ice cold and steady, "is that you don't get to parade around in first class on my dime while treating me like dirt. The tickets were purchased with my personal rewards, representing thousands of dollars of my work. You taught me a valuable lesson. Respect comes before entitlement. I simply exercised my right as the account holder. Perhaps you can ask Mark, the brilliant organizer, for a solution." Mark screamed in the background, a desperate wail. "But what about our trip? The money we paid for clothes, passports, and baggage fees?" "You'll have to deal with that yourself," I replied. The finality absolute. Unlike me, you have 2 weeks of unexpected free time to figure out the concept of financial responsibility. Have a great vacation. I hung up and placed the phone face down, the silence in my apartment a profound victory. Mark, Martha, and David never made it to Europe. They had to take an expensive, humiliating taxi ride back home, their luggage still packed with clothes they wouldn't wear, the lost ticket value, the lost hotel deposits, the car service fees. It amounted to the devastating loss of their $25,000 investment. The calls and angry voicemails continued for a week, fluctuating wildly between begging, guilt-tripping, and pure unrestrained rage. I never listened to them. The emotional cost of that week and the years leading up to it was high, but the payoff was higher. The 800,000 points, my decade of sacrifice, were now safely tucked away for a trip I will take entirely on my own terms with people who genuinely value my company. I didn't feel cheap satisfaction. I felt a profound sense of freedom. Mark and Martha learned an expensive lesson that day. Financial dependency is a rope, and the person holding the other end gets to decide when to cut it. They finally realized that their high-flying, entitled lifestyle was entirely predicated on my quiet, invisible labor. Once that labor was withdrawn, their facade crumbled instantly. I learned that the best form of revenge isn't destruction. It's building a fortress of boundaries and self-worth that no amount of family entitlement can breach. What would you have done if you were in Clara's shoes? Did I go too far by stranding them? Or was this the only way to finally set a boundary against years of exploitation? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to like this video if you believe the golden child should have to pay for their own mistakes. Subscribe for more stories where the invisible sibling finally gets their triumphant moment of justice.